The CEO and the CFO are like, oh man. I'm like, what's going on? What happens at 1 o'clock? Does the world end? Right? What's happening here? They go, oh no, Eric. 1 o'clock on Tuesday every week is our meeting. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Life of a CISO with yours truly, Dr. Eric Cole. It's always a pleasure to be with you. If you're a repeat listener, thank you so much for watching my show. And if you're new, welcome, where we talk about cybersecurity strategy and what it takes to be a world-class Chief Information Security Officer. And it's interesting because I've been doing a lot of interviews where they've been talking about a lot of the different attacks. And of course, people are still talking about Solarwinds and the different attack vectors and asking, how did it happen? How did it occur? How did this breach happen without people realizing it? And it's funny because I realized how my position on cybersecurity has really changed over the last couple of years. If you go back 1 or 2 years ago and you would ask me those questions, I gave you a very technical answer. And it's still true today. Well, we're still finding out details about SolarWinds, but I believe when the truth comes out, and the truth will come out, right? It's going to be very similar to the other attacks where there was a server visible from the internet, missing patches, containing critical data that was not properly encrypted or protected. That sort of seems to be the big issue, the lack of asset management, patching, and control and management of the data. And what it really comes down to is a simple rule, or really two simple rules. Any system that's accessible from the internet must be fully patched, and any system that's accessible from the internet must never contain critical data. Right? Those are non-negotiables. And I always get, but Eric, what if we have a system that needs to be accessible from the internet and contain critical data? Nope. Right? It's like, what if I need to jump out of an airplane without a parachute? Not a good idea, right? Let's not do that, right? So we're not saying that you have hundreds of non-negotiables, but there's got to be a couple of non-negotiables, and those are the non-negotiables. So that was my answer 2 years ago. Then I got thinking and I said, wait a second. Are we saying that these Fortune 500 companies that are getting compromised don't have any asset inventory, don't have patching, and don't have any control of their data? Now, that'd be absurd. That'd be absurd to think these companies that have had major breaches, including SolarWinds and some of the other companies that have been breached, to think that they have no asset inventory, they have no patching and no control of their data. Crazy. So then I started going a little bit, and this is where about a year, maybe a year and a half, I came up with what I call the rule of 90%. Now, it's probably closer to 97%. But that doesn't sound as cool, right? The rule of 97%, that's just not as cool as the rule of 90%. So it's not an exact number, but you'll get the idea. And the rule of 90% is this. When organizations are focused on core things in security, they're doing it 90%. So in these organizations that have spent millions of dollars and have hundreds of people on their staff, we can absolutely say that they have some patching. 90% of their assets are under asset inventory. 90% of those systems are patched, and 90% of their data is properly controlled. Now, if you're taking an advanced course like physics or Calc 3 in college, that's actually pretty good. Right? That's pretty cool. If you get a 90%, I'd be happy, right? If I got 90% of my physics classes. But what it comes down to is even if you only have 100 servers and you're only doing 90%, that's still 10 servers that you don't know about. And 10 servers that aren't patched. And if we go up to 1,000 servers, if an organization has 1,000 servers, that means 100 systems are open, exposed, and unprotected. So that's where things start getting problematic. So then I would say, okay, it's not just technical. It's now having some methods and processes and procedures to make sure that you know about 100% of your internet-facing systems, 100% of them are patched, and 100% of them do not contain critical data. And then in the last 9 months or so, I'm really going through this and saying, okay, what is the reason why that's the case? My answers were technical focused, and a large percent of my career was focused on writing books and training technical people. And what I started realizing is the problems in cybersecurity and the challenges we have are not because we don't have enough technical people. And it's not because we don't have world-class technical folks. We have a lot of world-class, really smart technical people that know what to do. The issue is we're missing the communication channel to the executives. We're missing the strategy. What's happening in organizations is you have these executives that are concerned about security. You have these brilliant technical people, and there's no communication channel. They're not communicating in a language that they both understand. So this got me on the journey that we need better cybersecurity strategy and leadership and focus. And then I said, but wait a second, there's a position that's supposed to be doing that, which is a chief information security officer. And what I realized is now not all, but some, I always got to be careful. There's some world-class chief information security officers, but most of them are in the wrong circle. So if we imagine a circle, which is the executive team, and we imagine a circle, which is the technical team, the chief information security officer needs to be in the executive circle. They need to be focused on being a chief, focused on growing the business and have the relationships with the other chiefs. The problem is many CISOs, either formally or informally, are in the technical circle. They're still technically focused. They're still more interested in technical solutions, and they're still speaking technical language to the executive, which is the failure. So that's why my big push now is on training and creating world-class chief information security officers. And to be honest, they have to be created. Right? I'm going in and pushing my new CISO cert out there, and we're putting out some ads and advertisement, and every week or so I get somebody who posts going, Eric, you can't teach people how to be a CISO. The only way to do it is to be a technical security engineer for 12 years, understand security, and become a CISO. And I'm like, no! I'm like, you're the problem, right? Please stop talking to people, right? You are creating the problem. What do you mean you can't train security? You absolutely can. You absolutely can. That's like going in and saying you can't train somebody to be an airline pilot. The only way to be an airline pilot is to be a mechanic for 12 years and then move into the cockpit. Let me ask you a question. How many of you, if you got on the plane and it was getting ready to take off and the person came over, allows me to say, hey, this is Sally or this is John, and I've been a mechanic for 12 years, and now I've decided that I'm ready to fly the airplane. You want to see that airplane empty out really, really quickly. And I love doing analogies because a lot of times in technology and cybersecurity, people come up with these ridiculously, galactically stupid comments that make no sense, right? That's nuts. Now, don't get me wrong. Could a mechanic decide to make a career path and go and get trained to be a pilot? Yes. And would being a mechanic potentially help them a little bit because they have some understanding of how the plane works? Absolutely. But they're two different career paths. So same thing. Is being a world-class security engineer, if you want to switch career paths and become a world-class chief information security officer, could that help you? Absolutely. But it's a separate career path with a separate training that you need to go through. So that's what we really want to focus on is, to me, the root cause problem of why companies are having breaches and getting compromised is because we don't have proper cyber security leadership at the organization. We have technical people pretending to be chief information security officers. Now, don't get me wrong. I love technical folks. You can make a ton of money and have an amazing career being a world-class security engineer. That's awesome. And you can make a lot of money being a world-class chief information security officer. But they're two different career paths. Neither one is right or wrong. We've created this bizarre scenario that if you start off in cybersecurity and you don't eventually become a CISO, you failed. Who said that? I can't tell you how many times when I go in and I say that world-class security engineers make terrible CISOs, it's like I insulted them. I'm like, no, it's two different career paths. If you love being a world-class security engineer, do that. If you love strategy, do that. But don't force yourself into something you don't really like. And I'll give a great example. I was having some meetings with some executives, and I was sitting in with the CEO of the company, and we were just chatting, right? It was just informal meeting. I was up there for a board meeting, and I always give them advice and help them at a strategic level on things they should look at for growing the business and helping to use technology and cybersecurity as a business enabler. And we're just chatting, having a good time. And the COO walks by. Oh, Eric's here. Hey, come on. And the COO comes in, and then the CFO comes over, and we're chatting. Hey, why don't we go to lunch? Okay, great. So we all go to lunch, informal, not planned, and go to lunch, come back, and I kid you not, the chief operating officer looks at their watch, and they're like, oh, crap. It's 1:00. And the CEO and the CFO are like, oh, man. I'm like, what's going on? What happens at 1:00? Does the world end? Right? What's happening here? They go, oh, no, Eric. 1:00 on Tuesday every week is our meeting with the chief information security officer. And I'm like, oh, this should be interesting. Right? Just based on that reaction. So the CISO comes in and super positive hires. Hey, how we doing today? I tell you, I'm so excited. We were able to go in and reduce the false positives. We were able to retune our system. We have our proxies where now we can detect attacks and our dwell time and lateral movement statistics. And I mean, they're just going off like this and this. And you just see the other three people. And some of them are like, and they're just not paying attention. So 30 minutes, meeting over, CISO leaves. So I look at the other three. I'm like, hold on a second. I'll be right back. So I run out. And I say, hey, how you doing? Great. And I asked the CISO this, how did you think that meeting went? And they look at me, Eric, crushed it. I have it every week. I just own that meeting. I am just so in control of that meeting. And I'm like, okay, why do you think that you crushed it? He said, because I knew the technical knowledge better than anyone else, and I showed them how smart I was and how much technical information and technical knowledge I had and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, what do you think the goal of that meeting was? They sort of paused. And like, for me to go in and show them all the great stuff we're doing. I'm like, okay, could you possibly be wrong? Could it possibly be that the goal of that meeting was to understand the business value and impact cybersecurity has and have a business-related decision where you're talking business? And could it possibly be that if that was the goal of that meeting, that you didn't crush it and you crashed and burned? Now, I wasn't trying to be a butthead. I think in hindsight, I inadvertent, but I wasn't trying to be, right? And they're just looking at me like, I don't think so. And that's the problem. That person was a world-class technical person. So I went in and I had some meetings with them. I said, okay, let's be honest with you. And I told them the day. I said, do you realize I've been there since 10:30? And I was just sitting around talking with them. We went to lunch. We did this. I didn't go in and say the part about how they were not looking forward to the meeting because that would just be cruel. But I went through that. I said, you're not one of them. I said, you're not a chief. I said, chiefs talk business. Chiefs are focused on growth of the business and improving the business. And I said, that's not what you like to do. I said, so in my honest opinion, you can continue this facade of saying you're the CISO and you're not, and you will probably get fired because they will get frustrated with you. and you will be able to get another job. But here's what you need to decide. Do you really want to be a CISO? And if so, I can train you. Or do you like the technology and want to be a world-class security engineer? What do you really enjoy to do? Forget about the titles. What do you really enjoy to do? And they go, Eric, I really enjoy being the technical. I really don't like the strategy, and I don't like those other factors. I said, perfect. That was my answer too. I said, so here's what you need to do. Next Tuesday, you're going to go in that meeting, and you're going to say, listen, I do appreciate you all entrusting me as the Chief Information Security Officer, and I do appreciate you giving me that position 4 months ago. But that's not really my expertise, and that's not really the best use of the company. You're much better having me as your chief scientist. You're much better having me as your lead technical person because that's where I shine. So here's what I'd like to propose. Can we switch my title to chief scientist or chief security engineer, whatever title you want? And can I help you find another CISO that really wants to be a CISO? And it was funny because there was that awkward pause where nobody knew what was going to happen. And the CEO smiled and said, I could not agree with you more. And thank you for your maturity in seeing that and letting us know. And then the CEO continued, to be honest with you, we knew it wasn't a good fit. We honored you working at the company for 12 years, and we didn't want to get rid of you, but we were struggling because you were not serving the role, and we knew that you didn't fit in that role. And we were afraid that if we went in and moved you back to a technical role, you would view it as a demotion, and we did not want to get you upset. That's the dilemma in most organizations. The CISO is not happy because they want to be a world-class engineer, and the executives are not happy because they need a CISO, right? So that's where you need to really soul search and say, what is my true purpose here? What do I really want? And that's why I went in and created the CISO cert. Because I'll be honest with you, I started looking around and saying, what training exists for a chief information security officer? What training really gives them the strategy and strategic components of it? Not a technical course, a strategy course. And I realized all of the courses out there and the stuff that claim to be like CISO certifications and others are really technical courses. They're teaching somebody the technical side of cybersecurity. Now, if you're a business person with an MBA and you want to be a CISO, those courses yet can help because they're going to give you the security piece. However, what I've seen is over 80% of the CISOs come from the security side. They understand security. They don't need to be reinforced on the security. They need to be reinforced on the strategy, the business, the balance sheets, the briefings, and the presentations. So I went in and said, okay, I want to create a cert regardless. You're coming from the business side, what is the security information you need? And if you're coming from security, what is the business or strategy you need? So one of the things I like to do, and I actually stole this from Bill Gates, one of the things Bill Gates did very early on before he was the Bill Gates, right? Before he had a whole lot of zeros after his name, right? A multi-billionaire. He would go away for what he calls a think week. And essentially, he would go to a cabin in the woods, and it would just be him for a week. And he would just think. He would just spend time just sort of thinking, working on problems, reading some books, and just really focusing on where he's at and where he needs to go. So whenever I have problems like this, I do the same thing. So I sometimes do generic think weeks, which are just sort of by myself to relax and get regrounded. This one, I went away for 3 days and was a think week on what is the skills, what is the knowledge transfer that a world-class CISO needs. So I went in and I started going through all that. And I'll tell you, I actually used a hotel room. And I started, because I write notes and I put sticky pads and I put information, all that stuff all over the place. And I'm doing all this and I'm like, I don't know if you've seen the movie A Beautiful Mind, but I'm like, if the cleaning staff comes in and see, they're going to think I'm nuts, right? Because it's everywhere. So for the first day and a half, I just jotted down anything. Oh, world-class CISO, they need to understand high-level architecture. Boom, sticky note. World-class CISO needs to understand how to brief executives. Sticky note. World-class CISO needs to know how to do a strategic assessment. Sticky note. World-class CISO needs to know how to brief the executive. And I just, boom, just flooded this. And I came back, I started organizing into sections, started putting together the modules, and had over 6 sections and over 60 modules of what is needed for a world-class CISO. Then I came back to my lovely studio that we have here, and I said, okay, let's start recording. And I didn't set expectations. I thought it'd be about 30 hours. It turned out to be a totality of 40 hours. Each one is 30 to 60 minutes, so they're short little segments, but totality of about 40 plus hours. And I said, okay, that's the knowledge transfer. That's the knowledge transfer piece. So now you have the knowledge and strategy that you need. Then I said, okay, what else is needed for me to create the world-class CISO? I said, well, you also need coaching. Let's face it. You're going to go in and I'm going to try to give you everything you need in the knowledge transfer. But there's going to be challenges. There's going to be issues. There's going to be things that come up that just aren't covered. So I said, okay, you're going to need coaching. So then we put together a 6-month group coaching. So this is where you have live coaching with me, where in a group setting. Now, I will tell you, I do a lot of masterminds, and I've had a lot of coaches through my career. And whenever I heard group coaching, I was like, no, I'm selfish. I don't want to sit there when you coach somebody else. That's stupid. I want me. Coach me. Right? I'm like that little annoying kid on Polar Express. Me. Right? But here's what I found. I don't always know the right questions. So when I started doing group coaching, both for myself and running group coaching, here's what I found from a personal standpoint. They would go in and they would pick somebody else to coach. And that person would say, here's the current challenge that I have. I'd be like, holy crap. That's the same challenge I have, and I never even thought to add. That's brilliant. I can't wait to hear the answer. And when I realized this, I actually got more out of the coaching of the other people than mine. And I remember one time I got picked on to do group coaching, and I asked a question, and I got some great coaching. And I was like, okay. And then the person next went, and they gave their problem, like, wow, their question was better than mine. I wish I asked that, but guess what? I did, because I get to listen in. So I know if you're one of those that going, group coaching? Yes, because you're going to find that the questions and problems and challenges that other people have are not only the exact one you have, but it's a question you wish you asked. And then you'll also get one-on-one group coaching, so don't worry. And the group coaching is going to be simple. What is your current challenge that you're trying to overcome? What is the current challenge that you currently have in front of you that you need help overcoming, getting over, or getting around? And that's really the power of group coaching. And then as we talk and interface, you're going to start seeing a lot more information and details start to emerge and come out. So we have the knowledge transfer. We have the group coaching. Then I said, okay, what else does a world-class CISO need? And there's a third piece. You need a peer group. You need people that you can continue your journey with. I will tell you, throughout my career, coaches come and go. At different points in my life and my career, I need different coaches. So I have coaches that last anywhere from 1 to 3 years, and I move on to a new coach because each one has a specialty. And once they help me with that, I move on. However, I've had 4 people that I've been with as colleagues, peers, and friends for the last 20 plus years that we bounce ideas off of, we help each other out, and we grow together. So the last one is a private peer group, and the goal of that is during the 6-month program, you would actually meet a minimum of 3 people that you can build relationships with and be able to continue to grow your career with. So that's what I finally said I need to solve this problem. It's not a technical problem of why companies are getting broken into and breached. It is a strategy and CISO problem. So I created that CISO cert in which we go in and we do a knowledge transfer. We also go in and we do the peer group and we do the coaching. So if that's something that's of interest to you, you can go to secure-anchor.com/CISO. And on that link, when you first go there, we're going to have a free ebook to download. I'm all about giving you content and free. And then if you want to sign up for a coaching, you can. If you want to jump on the call with me, ecole@secure-anchor.com, and I'd love to talk to you about getting you into our CISO. We're continually running it. The next one starts in a few weeks, and I think we have a few seats left. I haven't checked the registration in the last couple of hours, but they are selling up pretty quick, so I'd love to get you in that program. So either go to the link, contact me, and I'd love to help you become a world-class CISO. So as I wrap up this segment, we got a few minutes left. I just want to share one of the interesting questions I got in one of my podcast interviews. And they went and said, Eric, what do you think about organizations separating out cyber risk and cybersecurity? And I sort of looked at them. I said, what are you talking about? They said, yeah, a lot of organizations are saying that cybersecurity is just firewalls, IDSs, and then cyber risk is really managing the organization. I go, whoa. That is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, remember the definition of cybersecurity is managing, mitigating the risk of your critical data being disclosed, altered, or denied access. It's three pieces. It's risk management. Everything you do in cybersecurity is risk. So this idea that we're going to take the risk out of cybersecurity means it's not cybersecurity. It's technology. It's IT, right? So if you're in cybersecurity, you are doing risk-based management. Remember, if I teach you nothing else, I'm going to teach you the Dr. Cole magic trick. Here's the Dr. Cole magic trick. Before you spend, or your organization or your clients spend an hour of their time or $1 of their budget on anything in the name of security, they should always ask 3 questions. What is the risk? Is it the highest priority risk? And is your solution the most cost-effective way of reducing that risk? If you're not reducing a risk, it's not cybersecurity. And if it's not your highest priority, you shouldn't be doing it. So always go in before you do anything, before you put it on your roadmap or anything else, always say, what is the risk? Is this the highest priority? And is our solution the most cost-effective way of reducing it? Now, I will tell you how I came up with that. Many years ago, I was given a research grant. And the research grant was this. They said, Eric, we're going to give you 10 companies that are winning in cybersecurity and 10 companies that are losing in cybersecurity, and we need you to figure out the difference. Why is it that some companies win and some companies lose? Now, I thought it'd be easy. I figured, okay, it's got to be resources. It's got to be people. It's got to be money. Actually, no. The companies that are winning and the companies that were losing were spending about the same amount of money. They had about the same amount of staff. And I said, okay, it's got to be policies. It's got to be firewalls. And I went through all the obvious, and the answer was, nope, they both have the same. So they said, okay, I got to crack this nut. So I went on site, and I started interviewing some people. And then I started asking a lot of questions. And what I realized is there was a theme. When I went to the companies that were winning, and I took their security roadmap, and I picked a couple of random items off of it. Okay, you're spending $300,000 on X. And I asked the companies that were winning, what risk are you trying to reduce by doing this? Is this the highest priority? And is your solution the most cost-effective? They answered. They had answers every single time. And when I went to the companies that were losing, that were getting breached and broken into, and I randomly picked an item off of their security roadmap, and I said, what is the risk? They didn't know. And they didn't know if it was the highest priority or cost-effective. They weren't making risk-based decisions. So what I learned is companies that are winning are focusing on risk, and companies that are losing are not. So take your current security roadmap, the current plan of attack that you have in place, and put it on a spreadsheet. And on that spreadsheet, I want you to have 3 columns. For every single item, I want you to identify what is the risk. I want you to confirm that it's the highest priority. And I want you to verify that your solution is the most cost-effective way of reducing it. Now, let me help you out here. If you can't do that, if you're going through your security roadmap and you're like, I don't know the risk, I don't know if it's the most cost-effective, I'm looking at my crystal ball. And my crystal ball says there is a breach in your future. So if you want to go in and be on the winning team, it's easy. Before you spend $1 of your budget or an hour of your time, always ask 3 questions. What is the risk? Is it the highest priority risk? And is your solution the most cost-effective way of reducing it? And if you're in business or you wish that your business executives or people that you worked with had a better understanding of cybersecurity and had a resource they can use, I have good news for you. This just came in the mail. That's what I'm bragging about. This is my new book. This is early release, but my new book, Cyber Crisis, Protecting Your Business from Real Threats in the Virtual World. It comes out May 18th, so definitely pre-order your book. I'd love to get you some more information on that. And once again, thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode of Life of a CISO.